All right. We're live. Just waiting for the thing to pop up that tells me there we go. Welcome to Paranormal the New Normal. My guest this week was a very short notice thing because I saw his post on Facebook a couple days ago and I said I have to get this man on my show. So it worked out a couple days later and here we are. My guest tonight is Alan Rawles. And he has a story that I think we're all going to want to hear. Alan, how you doing tonight?
I'm fine, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Nothing like a fun shopping trip with the wife and kids. Yeah.
Always. I'm a married man myself, so I understand that life.
Exactly. So, hence for our little time delay here, but that's
Oh, that's
okay.
fine.
So, why don't you tell them? Why don't you just start telling your story and explain how it started, basically?
Okay, so all right. Well, mind you now, the well, first of all, let me say this, Jeremy. Um, you're the second person who is actually getting um this story because I've never talked about this to anybody. Um, and I promised one person that I literally just finished being a guest for. That was first person exclusive. So you definitely got the second person exclusive to this and whatnot. And I'm glad that you are allowing me to be a guest upon your show.
Of
Um,
course.
thank you for that. So okay, well, the thing that took place on this, I can never forget the night. Um, so the night that this particular incident took place, this experience, was February 11th of 1990. And the reason I remember the night so well and vividly and everything detailed in that night vividly, that was the same night that Buster Douglas defeated Mike Tyson.
All right.
I was a kid. All right. Well, I won't say I was a kid, but I was 16 at the time. Um, and I got I I got in some trouble at my school and whatnot for beating up um, beating up another student and having a gun on me. So they sent me to a school called Stetson School, which is in Barry, Massachusetts.
Oh, I'm in
Now,
Massachusetts.
that's where I'm from originally. I'm Boston. I'm from West Roxbury, actually, born and
Oh,
raised.
I go there for
Yes,
work all the time. Yeah, I know what's Roxbury.
yeah, I'm born and raised out of Orchard Park. So, the Massachusetts is my life. I currently live in Virginia right now. Me and my wife. My wife is from Virginia. So we they sent me to the Stetson School, and I was there. This probably a little over a year. I would say it had to have been a little bit over a year. I would say maybe roughly 13 and 14 months in when the experience took place. All right. Now, the night prior to that, which would have been February 10th, the night of February 10th, a bunch of us were in town. A bunch of us, kids from the
Yeah.
school. We was in town because we get allowed to go into town to where we can go in to the library, buy things, so forth, so forth. So it was like maybe 7 or 8 of us around that was walking back from town up the main road. But now mind you, it's still kind of like woody I'm saying, going down that road, but it's a regular road. It's just kind of trees on both sides for when you get past the school, and for maybe a good quarter of a mile, it's like woods on both sides. We hit that little wood stretch coming from town before we get to the schoolyard building, and we all seen like this cloud thing, seemed like it was hovering, like a white cloud type joint. And couple of the girls were kind of like, well, like, what's that? And us boys, we not scared of this stuff, you know. So we thinking it's just a cloud or something. We don't think nothing of it, but it did kind of seem strange the way that it was so low, like almost to where we could literally touch it with our hands. And in the way it was moving, it moved like in back and forth in a way that it was controlling itself. But again, I'm not, I don't scare, and so I don't think nothing of that. So I chalk it up and turn around brushing it off. I said that's probably just Casper. Everybody laughs. We go back to the building. Da da da. The next day, all right. Now the school announces that they're gonna go ahead and get do the Tyson Buster Douglas fight on the pay-per-view for everybody, and it was going to be held at the Anonymity School, which is on the other side of the field. It's all part of the Stetson School. That's just another building to where they do more classes and stuff. Now, from our building going back to that building across the field, it's, I would say, roughly maybe. I think when I told the guy just a little while ago, it could have been maybe between 400 to 500 yards of that distance.
Yeah.
So now the fight ends pretty quickly. Boom, boom, boom. So now, because we have an extended curfew, because normal curfew would have been 11:30, but they had the curfew set up to 1. So the fight being ended pretty quickly. We still had time. Blah blah boom. We go out. Me and my friend, best friend Chris. Now, mind you, me and him, we met at the Stetson School because he was my first roommate when I got there.
Yeah.
He had already been there for a few months, and me and him became really close, became best friends. So me and him always, we went everywhere together. We hung out all over. So now we came out, and it's now February 12th, because it's like a little after midnight. We come out to go across the road to the wooded side, which is coming out on the right hand side of the building, crossing the road, going straight across onto the right side. On that back end side of that forest there's back in, there's an apple trees. And a lot of the kids go back out to grab apples and stuff to eat and stuff. So me and him decided to go back there to grab us a few apples before we went to head back into our building across the field. We come back out. We go in the apple tree thing stuff. Right, is maybe 80 yards or so in. So we come in 80 yards. Da da da. So we get a few apples. We eat a couple of apples. We come out, like I said, maybe about we about maybe 100 and maybe about 120 yards in now, roughly around that, from where we came from, where the road is to where we came out in the field. When we came out, the crazy thing is we well, okay, let me backtrack. Before, when we first came out the building, we noticed that cloud thing before we seen the night before.
Yeah.
But again, we don't think nothing of it because up that area it kind of stays a little cloudier. You do deal with fog, da da da. But what caught me and it stayed on me is because of the way it seemed to move by itself away from other clouds, and the way it was way the other clouds were cloud positions. This seemed to be hovering like literally over us, or like not like directly, but I'm saying just that close that we can almost reach out and grab it. So we don't think nothing of that. Again, we just chuck it off. Ask Casper type joint, da da da. But when we go to the field and we come back out at the little opening part where he stops and he looks up. So naturally, I look up. I'm thinking he's seen the cloud thing again, and I'm looking. I'm like, what? That's when not seen, but we heard it. It was like giant wings flapping. We started to walk back towards that building where everybody was at, because we wanted to go back and tell the teachers and those in authority. Now my heart is actually starting to raise. Chris is kind of start. He was like, "Man, I don't know what that was, but we had to go. We get over, right?" So we start to walk back, and when we did, we hear it again, and this time when we look up, we see it, black with bright red eyes. But the wingspan on that thing, but we didn't really know the grasp of just how big this thing really was, why it was up in the sky. We started, like I said, we was I'm getting ready to go towards the field, back towards the main building we came out of. It came down and landed right there where we was getting ready to go towards. And when it came down, like I said, this thing had some every bit of good 8, 9, even possibly 10 feet or so tall. But the wings on the thing was what was crazy, because it seemed like it had these, I don't want to say eyes, but it seemed like it was something about the wings. But the wingspan of it was so huge that literally it almost, I know it had, the wingspan had to been a good, I would say a good 20 yards, 20, 30 yards and spread. And I played football, as a kid, so I knew what, and I'm quick in math, but I'm looking, me and him both, when we seen it come down and land there, and then the eyes got glow, we both took off running back towards our building, which is where we actually sleep at. We ran back so fast. Now, if they recorded I know we would have been recorded probably as the fastest humans on earth that night. We didn't bother looking back because we know what we saw, and we know that it was not something that should have been around. We had to go. And we ran so fast back towards the building, I ran through the glass, the door of the front building.
Jesus.
I still got cut marks and stuff upon my body where I went through that glass. They came in, security ran in, some of the staff, was like, "What's going?" We both froze. We was all we both do is pointing out. Guard goes out there looking around. They kept asking what. We kept saying is, wing thing, wing thing, wing thing, you know, and we didn't know what we was really actually seeing. We couldn't say what we were seeing because we don't know what we were seeing. And the wild thing about it is we think we might have saw it again, like almost what this maybe a year and a half later. We had been left the school. We left the school and everything. Now we was at a lake up in Quincy, which is where Chris is from.
Yeah.
And we was at a lake down there. Well, you know what I'm saying? There was a few of us kids out there, and me and him never talked about what we saw. We never really discussed it. But what bothers me and keeps me with it on me all the time is because between that and his dad being abusive, he ended up committing suicide.
Oof,
And
that's unfortunate.
I know his suicide, a lot of it came because of what we saw. Because we never did talk about it. But from that point on, it was different. Like he wouldn't go anywhere near woods. And we used to go to the woods and everything all through the night. We just go out there and hang out 2 o'clock in the morning in the deep woods, being out there with nothing. We just pull our shirts off our back and lay down on the ground and stuff, be out there chilling. Sometimes we might be out smoking in the woods or drinking us a beer or whatever. We never had to fear. After that, he literally would not go nowhere in that woods. And I know it affected him, you know, but I figured that he would got over it. Me, it never did put me, but what I saw that night scared the living shit out of me. I've never experienced a fear like that in my life, you know, and it was is and I never knew nothing about what this thing was up into 2002. And the only reason I found out a little bit about it then was because I was in prison then, and the prison I was at that time, they do movie nights during the weekends. And it just so happens that they had the movie called Mothman Conspiracies with Richard Gere in it.
Mothman
Where,
prophecies, yeah.
huh?
Mothman prophecies, but yes.
Yes. Mothman Prophet, that's it. And that's where when about maybe 10 minutes in, when it was when him and his wife were driving and she seen the thing up in the road and whatnot. And when I seen it, I jumped up and ran out of there and ran back to my cell. And all I kept doing pushing the button, lock my cell, lock my cell. My cellmate come to me, was like, "Man, you okay, man? Like, yo, you acting kind of crazy, yo." But I wouldn't say that. I was like, "I'm done. I don't even want to see that movie." And it it locked on to us. Said, they got an actual movie about this thing. What the hell? Mentally, I could not grip that, and I never really researched into it because I guess in a way I was always afraid of what I might find, you know, because I know what I seen, and a lot of this stuff is falling to in line of what I seen. So I know that it's kind of for me, it's kind of like entering a fear of unknown because I know what I've seen and what the things that they talk about with this thing, you know, and so forth. I know has to be true, and that's the part for me is, I guess in a way is I didn't want it to be true, you know. But and the thing is I've never talked to nobody out with, you know, like publicly spoken about this. The only people I've ever told this about to is my psychiatrist and my wife. My wife
Yeah.
is the one that told me that I should, you know what I'm saying, that I should try. You know what I'm saying? I should start talking about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Publicly. You know, and she even recommend for me to reach out to to the ones that made the movies and the movie about it, and see about getting them to come and talk back to me and stuff about it, and stuff like that. And I guess now I'm ready for that, which is why now I'm giving guest appearances now to speak about my experience, and it still scares me, even now talking about it, I'm kind of shaking a little bit, because I still don't understand what I've seen, and to this day I still never really dug in to really know deep about the Mothman. I do know a little bit. I know that the first possible sighting was in like '66, and Plainsfield, West Virginia. Um, Thank you, Joshua. Thank you. It's She really is incredible. She definitely pushes me to step outside of my boundaries, outside of my comfort zone, and talk about stuff sometimes that I wouldn't normally talk about. And I guess for a way, it's healing for me too. You know.
Of course. I mean, and the Mothman, not many people know much about him. I mean, or it. Not many people know much about it. The Mothman is he's one of those cryptids that is seen occasionally. He's not like a Bigfoot or a dog man. Like, he's not seen constantly. He's seen occasionally. And that's where a lot of the theories around this creature come to light. Because what I was going to ask is, in did anything significant happen around the time you saw him, like in West Roxbury or Boston? Was there any major disasters, like natural disasters or shootings or anything of that nature that would be like really bad? I'm trying to think, because in 1990 I was only 2 years old, so I really don't know the history from 1990 that well. But I can't think of any major events around Boston that would happen around that time.
No. And again, this was in Barry, Massachusetts, where we encountered our experience, which is like further. That's like further west.
You
That's
said
like
Barry?
yeah, Barry, Barre,
Oh, Bear, Bear,
Bear,
Bear, Bear.
Bear,
Oh,
Massachusetts.
I
Yeah.
I live in Gardner. I don't know if
Oh,
you know where
you're
that
not
is.
far from Bear.
No, I'm not far. Okay, now you just scared the shit out of me, because if you saw Mothman in Bear, Massachusetts, oh my god, that is
And
so close. That is so
at
close
the
to me. It's not even funny.
at the Stetson schools where we was at.
I wonder if that school's even open still. But
It is. It's still
uh,
open. I literally Googled it last night and looked it up. The building hasn't changed much to nothing,
all right,
other than the color, and there's a couple of steeples on the main building, because that main building, if you look it up, you'll see it. That's the building that we all slept in. It was, what I'm saying, the 2 floors and different rooms on each floor.
yeah,
And the security guard, we ran through that front entrance glass is what we ran through. I ran through it, and he came behind me. But
which this is. I mean, I have never heard of the Mothman. Well, I mean, I've heard of the Mothman being in different areas, but usually it's either around Chicago, West Virginia, or I've heard of it in Chernobyl before the nuclear disaster happened.
and I
But
think that if I remember reading somewhere, I believe there was a sighting. Somebody had a sighting in New Hampshire or somewhere around there, Rhode Island as well.
was it around the same time as your sighting?
No,
Oh, okay.
I
I mean,
This is why I say it's kind of it's odd to me because I I I don't think I believe I probably might be the first or might be the only one who's willing to talk about my experience of seeing the Mothman in Massachusetts. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely never heard of one in Massachusetts, but that's the thing about the Mothman or Mothmen. I mean, we don't know if there's more than one of these things,
Yeah,
but
it could be a few of them. We don't. There's so little we know about all of this stuff. It's
there is very little we know about it. But which poses my next question to you in a way, because the Mothman is typically looked at in one of two ways. He's either a underworld entity or a demon, people think, that is a bringer of chaos, or people think he's a heavenly creature or angelic creature, if have you, that is a forebearer of doom and is warning people, like the Point Pleasant Silver Bridge collapse back in the 70s, or when he was seen at Chernobyl, like before the nuclear meltdown.
yeah. And it
But
seems that wherever he was, it was destruction. But I don't recall anything major. But I would have to probably research and see if there was any kind of like anything out the way that would, you know what I'm saying, might have intricate effects from that. You see what I'm saying? Like a backup effect.
yeah, I mean, and we don't know much about this creature, so he may just, I don't know, he may not always be coming by just to warn us or to cause havoc. I mean, it may just be another cryptid out there that we don't really realize exist to the full extent that it does. I mean, it's only been seen a handful of times, so by most people, so we don't know what its purpose is, and that's why Mothman is one of the most interesting cryptids, is because we can't explain why it's there or why it's. I mean, it was seen in Chicago in 2017, 2018, multiple times.
Yeah.
And President Trump even said something about him on the news at one point, which is, to have the president say something about it is like, what? Like, the government's aware of this, apparently? They're paying attention? Because the government usually doesn't pay that much attention to cryptids unless it's something that they're hiding, like
And,
aliens.
and
But
which is to me, like one of my strong beliefs about stuff. Thank you, Joshua. It really it one of the firm beliefs that I do have, or one of the strong theories that I have, is that things like, of course, the Mothman, Bigfoot, Yeti, Sasquatch, whatever the name they give them, things like the Loch Ness, stuff like that. These supposed creatures, animals, beings, whatever. I believe that they're interdimensional beings.
yes, which
Interdimensional beings and creatures that that can move through time and space at will. Which is why when they say Bigfoot, there's been sightings over going way back for centuries, but no clear evidence has ever been formed that of bones or skulls were found or whatever natural of them dying in the woods or whatever. And I believe that they may possess the same genetic tissue that the the vampire theory was based off of. When the vampire is killed, the vampire returns back to what? Dust and ash. It disintegrates into an ash after you kill a vampire.
yeah, supposedly.
So it leaves no bones, and nothing being left behind. And I believe that it's possible that these even like the Sasquatch, whatever I guess they name it, the Yeti, Bigfoot, whatever, Loch Ness, I believe they're all interdimensional beings, and they pop up whenever they want to because they move through space and time at will. And when they show up here and when people see them, I believe it's because they want that particular person to see them. It's they when they're here, they freely move around. We could probably be sitting right there in the woods, chilling, and there could probably be 10 Bigfoots around you, and you wouldn't even know it. Because if they're interdimensional beings, that means they have the ability to cloak. So they could be standing right in front of you, and you would never even see them. Kind of like a predator, the whole predator type thing, cloaking devising. And I don't feel like it's so off putting with it. But what gets me is when you say something like that to some Bigfoot believers, they'll be like, well, that's talking crazy. Well, why would that be talking crazy if nobody's ever gotten clear pictures of them? Think about it. That means they may have the same ability that the vampire had, because a vampire you can't take pictures of vampires. They don't show up in film, and they don't show up in mirrors. So the Bigfoot's probably got that same ability, the Sasquatch, these interdimensional beings, Loch Ness, all of these different, Mothman, all of them different ones probably have it set up like they're probably able to shift and move and cover themselves because they're not of our realms. They move freely, and which means that they're able to do things that define. Where did you find those?
So,
at the bottom of the deep freezer on the floor.
In the deep freezer?
No, at the bottom of the deep freezer on the floor. Behind that on the thing.
Oh.
Sit right there.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. My wife.
it's all good. It's all good. But what you are referring to is actually a theory I've heard before, and it's called they call them ultra terrestrials, which means they come from different dimensions.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Ultra. Yes. That's it. That's the name I was thinking.
But let me propose this. Let me propose this theory to you, because, I mean, I've had this theory for a long time, and I always like to throw it out there when people bring up like the ultra dimensional stuff, and I'm just like, well, what about this? What if Earth is a prison planet for alien species? What if in space there's a UN of alien species, or a dupe if you want to go the Futurama route, or the Intergalactic Council like on Star Trek, of different alien species, and they decide to send alien species that are not agreeing with them to Earth as like a prison. And what have they been doing that since before we came out the caves? So
that's very much possible, and again, in them doing so, they still allow them to harvest certain powers or whatever, so that they would call it, to be able to still like cloak or whatever it is to remain hidden on Earth, because they still got to have a way that they can blend in and mix in within, because with the government and our satellites and everything else that we got, why we never been able to find an actual Bigfoot or any of that? And I believe it's because them being those kind of beings from different galaxies, universes, whatever. But they have they have the ability of cloaking. You know what I'm saying? Shielding.
I agree. I mean, and there's actually a phenomenon out there called glimmermen, where people see like predator-esque, like those people. Someone will be looking at like a patch of woods, and all of a sudden they see like a movement in the woods, but they can't see what it is, and it looks like a glimmer, like a predator in cloaking, and to define it in the best way I can. So, I mean, there's that possibility that they do give them cloaking technology of some kind, or Earth is constantly having UFO reports everywhere. What if those UFOs are the different wardens, and they're hiding all the evidence of any creature that dies? They're hiding any evidence that a creature was nearby. What if they're just constantly covering up creatures that they put on Earth.
That might be very well. Well, that's a very very convincing theory as well.
I mean, it's just
It
one that's been.
really is.
I don't know where I came up with this theory. I don't know if I really don't remember if I made it up or if I heard somebody on a podcast talk about it. But I mean, it's just I don't know. And like Josh has said, there has been. There we go. There has been evidence of Bigfoot. I mean, Small Town Monsters in their documentaries they went to the Olympic Project in Washington, the state Washington, and they found like Bigfoot nest and they captured it on film. Like there's huge nests that are on the ground that they believe Bigfoot would sleep in or raise their young in, what have
And
you.
as well as certain things that's been found in the woods, like trees bent out that can't be explained, and made into huts and things like that as well. And again, and that's a very well right there is because Bigfoot has to be, and they are real. They real, and again, that's another proven factor or another close evidence support that Bigfoot has cloaking abilities, which is why they down here and we don't never see them because what I'm saying, unless they want to be seen.
See, I don't know if Bigfoot have cloaking abilities, but what if they've just been here so long and they're so scared of human beings that because they see what human beings do to other animals, they see what human beings do to each other, and they've been seeing it since the beginning of our time. So what if they just got very, very good at being able to keep themselves hidden? What if they figured out ways to hide in the forest? Or maybe they're using cave systems in certain parts of the U.S. because there are tons of cave systems all over the East and West Coast and in the Midwest that are so vast that no human being has ever explored them completely, except for Native Americans, of course, because they used to take.
But
They
what
used to
about, but then how do they hide against the satellite systems and stuff that, and I'm sure that they've been searching the planet with the satellite systems, probably looking for Bigfoots. But then again, they probably know of them, and so they don't need to search. It's us that's trying to find the evidence. They know that they exist and whatnot. They see them through their satellites, and again, they probably are, like they have tracks to them. They know where they're at. They know when they're moving, and traveling. They know when they're giving birth, and and so forth. I mean, again, it's some people may not try to believe, but again, it's way too much evidence for this stuff to not believe. You know what I'm saying? And it's way too many experiences of people who, for what I'm saying, for them not for you not to believe. Now, it in how we believe it could be, what I'm saying, some of the problems, because yes, some people go full fanatic style and go way out, but again, that it's a way of opening communication and dialogue of what some of the things that we may not know, what I'm saying, the stuff we don't know, which is pretty much everything, because we really don't know nothing about any of this stuff for real. Only what they leave behind for us to know, evidence of stuff, little traces for them to okay, we're gonna let you see us, this person, these people see this X or whatever, da da da. We're gonna do this, but everybody can't see us because everybody ain't gonna be able to handle it.
Of course, and I mean, the government 100% knows Bigfoots and other creatures exist, and they are keeping it hidden because they're worried that humans will freak out about it. Which the same reason they didn't say anything about UFOs until COVID hit, because they wanted to take people's minds off of COVID. So they announced, "Oh yeah, there's UFOs. We don't know what they're not. They're nobody we know. So they must be from out of this universe." I mean, so the government always knows more than they're letting on. Always.
But that's very much so. Just like the believe, and I truly believe like there's mermaids in the water in the oceans. We may not, like me or you or the next person may never have seen them, but there has been some people who have sightings, and I
Oh,
believe that they're out there. The Loch Ness, I believe that he's out there. I believe that the Loch probably lives somewhere in. I think he might live somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle. You know, uh, which is why he is able to hide and shield himself so well, and he moves throughout them waters or whatever. But again, we have all these different, and what you said makes good sense. It could be where all these different alien councils creating a council, and when you know what I'm saying, and Earth is nothing but a dumping ground.
basically, I mean, the Loch Ness monster lives in a loch in Scotland. So I don't think it's in the Bermuda Triangle, but
Oh,
I definitely believe that there's plenty of stuff in the ocean that we don't know about because we haven't explored the oceans fully. We cannot explore them fully because we don't have the machines to go that deep.
oh, we would never be able. I don't think we'll ever get to there where we, because the Earth, I believe, goes all the way into the crust, and I don't think we'll ever figure a way to penetrate through the crust's core of travel. And I believe that's where a lot there might be when people talk about like when that movie, like with the movie with Kong first Godzilla, you
The hollow
know.
Earth, the hollow Earth theory. Yep.
Yeah, and I believe that's very much well could be true too, which is where a lot of these creatures come from. They come from the hollow earth, and when certain things happen, like certain earthquakes or shifts because of people and their building, and constantly changing the land and stuff, and it makes some of these creatures come out because they're popping out, probably because they are protectors of the earth as well, and they're coming out to warn everybody, like, look, you stop that, or you know what I'm saying, that is going to be real bad.
Yep. And
And
I agree. And you know what's funny about that? Since you mentioned Godzilla vs Kong, there's a cryptid in Africa called Mokele Mbembe, and it means he who blocks the river, and it's supposed to be a brontosaurus or some kind of living dinosaur. But it's funny because in Godzilla vs Kong, they cut it out of the movie, but in the book version of Godzilla vs Kong, they mentioned Mokele Mbembe in the book as one of the Titans,
which is the Loch Ness.
which Mokele Mbembe is from somewhere in the Congo in Africa. I forget the exact state, but he's from there, and he has been seen by natives in that area since before white men went there, and which means there has to be a family. They have to be reproducing, otherwise it would have died out a long time ago. And in Godzilla vs Kong, they in the book they actually use the name of that creature as one of the Titans, which all that could mean nothing. They could just be going off popular culture, but it's just interesting that they would bring that up in a book about Hollow Earth and Titans here to protect the Earth and whatnot. It's interesting, and I love the idea of living dinosaurs still on Earth because there's been
And that could be the other very well theory too. That could be probably could be more spot on than anything. Bigfoot Sasquatch Yetis are living in the hollow earth and pop up here on our earth just to come up and either for whatever reason they might come up here to collect something that they need, to bring back to Hollow Earth, or it could be that they come up here for something or just whatever. You know what I'm saying? But I believe Hollow Earth might be where they literally live at.
Which is
And
interesting because I don't know if you've seen it on Facebook, but there's a meme that's been going around Facebook, and it shows a map of all the cave systems in America and where all the missing 411 people go missing in the wilderness in America, and it overlaps greatly. So it's what is taking these missing people that lives in those caves, because it's obvious that there's some connection. I mean, all you have to do is look at the map of it, and it makes sense. And I mean, the Hollow Earth theory would give a place for all these creatures to hide. I mean, Bigfoots are seen almost on a, I don't want to say daily basis, but throughout the United States, they're seen at least every other day at some point, because there are stories from that people tell nowadays of like their grandfather in the early 1900s had a house up in the mountains, and he used to see Bigfoot every day walking around outside his cabin. Basically, I've heard stories like that. And what if the Bigfoots are out there, but they just avoid us unless we live in very remote areas, and then they kind of learn to live with us? I mean, maybe then they know that if we don't say anything, they don't have to worry, and we're not going to say anything because we don't want to sound crazy, especially 70, 80 years ago when paranormal was not a big topic. I mean, that's the reason my show is named what it is, because paranormal is slowly becoming the new normal. If you say Bigfoot to anybody nowadays, they know what you're talking about. 70 years ago, that wasn't the case. Half the people look at you. If you try to explain what you're talking about, then half the people look at you like you're insane. But now it's accepted that there are things out there we don't quite understand or know why they're there yet, but more and more people are trying to figure it out, and eventually we're going to figure it out. It's just going to take a long, long time till we actually have full evidence of anything.
But then we got to ask ourselves the question to that is, do we really want to know the answer?
That's the hard question, because
the answer that we're looking for may not be what we think it is. It could very well upset the balance of people's lives and nature. So sometimes knowing the answer to something, not knowing it is better than knowing it.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and that's why they have.
The day we actually break through and explore every cave in America, because of people building buildings and whatnot, and people wanting to expand and expand and expand, there's going to be some issues, because there are obviously things living in these caves deep in them that we don't know about. Native Americans might have known about them, because Native Americans had stories about their ancestors trading with hairy tribes of hairy men. So, Is that Bigfoot? Most likely, yes. Unless there really were just a tribe of really hairy men somewhere in the United States that died out before white men got here. I mean, I don't know. It's a possibility, but I've heard it from multiple Native American tribes that their ancestors traded with tribes of hairy men, and they just treated them as hairy men. They didn't treat them as anything different. So, because Native Americans were more in tune with the earth than we are, so they just accepted things the way they were. But it's hard for me to say, because we don't know, and we're not going to know anytime soon. It's just the way it is. Until someone captures a live or dead Bigfoot, no one's going to fully believe it. That's what it would take for the full populace of America to be like, oh, they exist. All these people who we call crazy for the last 50 years for saying they exist.
But then you'll have every crazy person out there hunting them.
Which is what I fear.
And that's
because
probably, and that's again why they harvest their secrets. You know what I'm saying, from us, because we not ready for those. We're not ready for their secrets.
yeah, we're not, and human beings are not at a point where we're in tune with nature enough, and we're not in tune with ourselves enough even to handle something like this. I mean, we're still fighting each other's countries over petty differences. There's still racism and sexism and everything else in this world. We are not ready to explore something beyond ourselves yet, which is why the government does know about these things, but they're not telling us because they know we're not ready. They know it would cause an uprising and a panic among all of America and all of the world if these things were to be claimed as true.
That, and it kind of takes me back to when Eddie Murphy's stand up comedy. I don't know if you remember when Eddie Murphy had the one where he was talking about the aliens, where he was like, when he was talking about, he said the aliens being over us, flying, talking about some, let's go down and visit. He's like, the aliens being the thing, talking about some, they out there over there killing each other over black and white. We green. What do you think they're gonna do to us? And I think he had I think he was onto something with that, because we do tend to we and when we things appear here, the first thing they want to do is they want to capture it. They want to do all these tests on them, and study and and treat whatever it is to inhume, conditions and stuff like that for the sake of science and study and to see if they can create a weapon from it, and that's the thing. All these, I guess, in a way you could probably call them mythical creatures because they're mythical to a point because we don't know enough about them, or what I'm saying, or understand anything about them to know what they truly are. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh,
they're
100%.
they exist. They're just they're mythical to us. They're it's like a sparkle dust. It's fascinating. We're trying to figure it out, and everybody's doing their own little research, and you know, their own searches and stuff out here in the wildernesses, and looking for Bigfoots and Yetis, and looking for out there in the oceans, looking for Loch Ness monsters, and still in magical lands, trying to find unicorns, and people still with the sightings of the Mothman. These creatures, these beings, whatever they are. You know what I'm saying? They're
Yeah.
they're here, and we have to accept that. But what we have to also accept is that they'll when they're ready, and if they're ready, they'll reveal the secrets to us.
Yeah,
If we would just stop trying to search them down and try to kill whatever it is, and or do away with or capture it, you know what I'm saying, like, and this is why they don't, because they know that our people, the human people are are animals themselves. We just have a standing intelligence with our animalism, which makes us more dangerous.
oh, 100%. I mean, I agree 100% because humans are we're horrible creatures. I mean, not all of us. Some of us are not out there looking to kill things, but a lot of us, we just want to get the fame of being the first one to discover and say, "Oh, this is real." I mean, look at all the white men who went to Africa for the first time and, "Oh, the gorillas are real. Let's kill them so we can take their skin and make jackets out of it. Let's kill these giant, beautiful elephants so we can make money off their tusk." Like, we are not a good race of people. We are not. I mean, I I personally am because I don't kill anything. and there's tons of other people out there who don't either. But I don't want to demean the whole human race, but there are plenty of bad people out there. For every good person, there's probably 3 bad people, and it's just that's why these things don't show themselves and that's why they've been around longer than we have, and they know don't show yourself to these people because they're going to kill you probably because they like to kill everything they come across. They did to their own people when they started exploring the world. They killed their own people,
except for the few that befriend them, and treat them with respect and give them space, because I have also heard stories about people having families of them on their land, and that's because they know that they're not going to harm them. They know that, what I'm saying, they're like, basically they're telling them this was your land before it was ours. So, who am I to stop you? Even though I own it now, who am I to stop you from wandering your natural habitats? And that's the problem, is we're trying to take all these natural habitats from these things and then expect them to conform to what we want, and it's not going to work that way. It doesn't. And that's just why they do keep themselves hidden from us, because of our animalistic behavior.
100%. I agree 100% with that theory because, I mean, we are just, I mean, yeah, I've heard stories too about Bigfoot living on someone's land for hundreds of years and they just survive naturally because the people don't mess with them. Like in the one story I heard, the boy was told by his grandfather, "Oh, he lives in these woods. I don't bother him. He doesn't bother me. That's the way it goes." And this was a 30, 40-year-old man telling a story about when he was a kid. So this was maybe 70, 80 years ago, 100 years ago, who knows? But it's just, I mean, Bigfoot live everywhere that there's forests. If there's they don't live in the middle of a city, obviously, because that'd be stupid. And they're smart, so they live in the middle of forest, and they learn from the beginning of time, especially if they wore, I always mess this up, Gigantopithecus, back when we were Homo sapiens coming out of the caves. If they wore that race of creatures, then they've been here since before we were, and the Homo sapiens were trying to kill them out, so they started hiding. And they realized we need to hide from Homo sapiens, and they went deeper into the woods and deeper into the woods. And then we started civilizing the world. The world, and they hid better. They learned how to hide, and maybe they found these caves. Who knows? I mean,
but then again, like I said, it could be that they just jump back and forth from Hollow Earth at any time.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, there's so many theories out there about how these things exist that we'll never know until we're meant to know. And then when that day comes, I'll be a happier person if I'm still alive.
The Mothman thing, I would love to figure out. You know what I'm saying? I would love to actually know the true behind that, like truthfully. But then again, I don't, because from the little bit I have read about, like you have read, that it seems to bring community around wherever it is. It brings destruction and chaos. And again, I'm a research to see if it was any kind of out of the way that it may not see. I may not recognize it as something like that, because I didn't understand none of that stuff then. Like I'm starting to understand now. So it could have been something that took place back then that didn't register as being a connection.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to research and look in to see if it's something that kind of like pops back at me and says, wait, that was this, and if it speaks to me, and then I'll understand more if that's the case. and then that'll bring some insight too. Because if something did happen that I don't understand and didn't understand then, I'm definitely going to end up studying in more about it.
100%, 100%. So I'm going to ask you this one last question, then we're going to wrap it up because I do have to get going. But when you saw Mothman, I'll call it Mothman because I truly believe that's what you saw. Did you have a overbearing sense of good or evil when you saw it? Like, did you get like any kind of feeling when you saw it?
Just fear.
Okay, I mean,
fear, like a sense of dread, sense of panic.
Of course,
I can't remember a sense of high state panic. It was like, when I say panic, I guess I could say it was kind of like my body was reacting in a way that I've never felt it react.
Like it was your true fight or flight instinct kicking in, is what you're saying.
It was like my spirit went to fear too, and my spirit was telling my body, "We got to get the hell out of here."
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and it was that immediate fight or flight. And I wasn't about to fight something I didn't understand. I never had that much fear in my life, and again, up to now, I've never felt nothing close to that level of fear. That was something entirely different.
Which makes me think maybe there is some saying that the Mothman is the underworld equivalent of like a forbearer of like a bringer of doom. Like maybe that's why we get such. That's why everybody who saw it ever is automatically struck with such fear. Is that it's just a natural human reaction in the brain to something that evil, because it's something we've known since the beginning of time exists. We've known evil exists since we came out of the cave. I mean, we used to think it was animals like saber-toothed tigers and whatnot, but we also understood probably back then that there was worse things out there than that, and in a biblical sense, maybe always. I mean, before the Bible was even written, though, we knew there was dark evil out there that we need to be aware of. And we told stories around the campfire about it back in the caveman days. And to this day, we still warn our kids about the boogeyman or whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's always been evil. There's always, as long as there's been good, there's always been evil. That's just the way the world works. But
it is. It's a yin yang. It's
exactly.
One can't live without the other.
100%. 100% agree with that. There's always going to be a yin yang effect, a karma effect on Earth. It's just the way it will be until the day we are gone. And like Josh just said, it's different when you literally see it in front of your eyes, but of course it is, because if I saw a Bigfoot in my woods behind my house in Massachusetts, which they're supposed to live in Leominster State Forest, which is about 10, 15 minutes away from me, so it's possible. So if I saw a Bigfoot come out of my woods, I would probably be like, oh, Bigfoot, finally, but part of me would want to run and hide because it's an unknown creature that I've never seen before. It's just the natural fear we have of the unknown. Which,
well, you might not want to turn around because there's one in your window now. I'm just playing.
Trust me,
that'd be crazy though if one just happened to pop up in his window while you're live streaming one day, and is actually caught. That would be wild. Like you would really then you can be like, look, he was trying to be on TV. He's trying to get famous.
That'd be insane because then it would be on video, and then I would send to someone who could deal with video better than I can, and I would say, enhance this right here and blow it up, please. But
that's not something you can just add to your screen joint. They would be able to tell that.
Yeah,
that'd be wild though. Like, have you ever like set up stuff around your property, around the, like just like
No.
cameras and stuff, just to see if maybe you ever catch something? I mean,
Well,
not
I'll,
for to prove to others, but for yourself. You know, like just to
oh,
say,
I 100% get what you're saying. There has been, as far as I can realize, no Bigfoot sightings in Gardner as far as I've researched. And I've talked to people and I can't find like a Bigfoot sighting anywhere. Goddamn
I mean, I
kids.
know there's been a few. I know there's been a few down here in Virginia that mostly out the black, coming out of the Desmo Swamp, and it's very easy to believe that there could be a, a few families in the Desmo Swamp. They could use the Desmo Swamp to travel because the Desmo Swamp stretches from here through all the way down to Florida, and it's so dense. If you walk in there and you don't really know what you're doing, it's quicksand all up in the Desmo Swamp.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's some dangers up in there. There's Black Panthers back there, right here in Virginia, Desmo Swamp, right out of the Suffolk way. You can go to the Desmo Swamp up there. There's a family of Black Panthers that live up there. They're
Oh god,
tagged.
yeah.
They're tagged. Yeah, they got them tagged and they track and whatnot. But yeah, they're up there. They family coming up from there. So if I always thought about maybe one time just taking a camp, you know what I'm saying, take my camp and stuff and going deep into the go deep into the Desmo Swamp, you know what I'm saying, with a few people and whatnot, and go in with um like cameras joints to put up that would snap at night, trail cameras and stuff they use for hunting and all that, but stuff like that, you know what I'm saying, all kinds of stuff just to see if I ever could, you know what I'm saying, see, have an experience with, a Bigfoot. But I would hope that the experience wouldn't be, you know what I'm saying, a violent one. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
of
I
course.
would just, I would personally just would want to see one just to say, hey, I finally get to see you. You know what I'm saying? Now
exactly.
I know you're real. I don't care if others don't believe if you're not. I know you are, and that's good enough for me. You know, you're safe
Exactly.
and I'd be like, look, you're safe with me. You're safe out here. You're good. You know,
Exactly.
and
I agree.
now
I
some things I wouldn't be so pleasant to want to meet like that, like the Mothman. But I'd be interested in knowing if there's ever something that they could do that could be a way of catching it. It can it be captured? You know what I'm saying? Um,
I doubt it. I honestly
because
doubt it.
yeah, because it moves in and out of the air. You know what I'm saying? And it disappears. And so yeah, but I wonder if there's a way you could kill it, even if you can't capture it, or to even get an understanding of it. Like, could to figure out a way to communicate and say, "Hey, I know that what you do and your death. This is from understanding da da da." But I'm just curious to understanding what it is that you really are, what you're about. Like, are you a demon? Are you an evil spirit of the underground? Are you an angel, or are you something else? You know what I'm saying? Are you something from another dimension, or just to get an idea of what it could be,
Oh,
to better understand why it's here. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I would. That's where my curiosity falls, is to get a better understanding of why these beings, these creatures, and such entities or whatever people call them are here. Why are you here on this particular earth if you have the ability to move throughout time and space? Why be here? Why subject yourself to being shot, killed, stabbed, whatever, captured, treated with science as a science lab instrument for the rest of your life or whatever, why would you subject yourself to risk that if you see what I'm saying, if you are a dimensional being that can travel throughout time and space? Why here? Why Earth? What is it about Earth? What is it that has you here? Is there and are all of y'all here subjectively, or are you here to fight each other and we just happen to be here in the way? You know, these
Exactly.
are questions I want. This is stuff I would love to know.
Exactly. I mean, or are they, going back to my alien prison theory, are they wardens as well that are here on Earth actually to keep an eye over things that may be getting loose? And maybe that's what kind of ties into their forbearer of doom type of thing that they are here for. But we do not know this, and we will not know this anytime soon. That much I can.
Yeah,
That
I
much
can
I can
definitely get
guarantee.
that.
But unfortunately, I do have to wrap up for tonight. But I am going to leave you with this because you seem interested in all this greatly. Look into the North American Dogmen Project website sometime, and I think it'll blow your mind.
North America. If you can, just send me a link for it so I can remember that.
I will, because it's an interesting site, and I definitely will send you a link for it. But
And I'm gonna send you a link to because I have a podcast myself that I'm starting up. I'm gonna be changing the name and all of that because I found that somebody actually has the name similar to it, just spelling a little bit different, but it's still too close, and I don't want to feel like, you know what I'm saying, I want people to feel like I'm trying to copyright infringe on somebody else's name. So I'm creating a new name for my podcast and whatnot. But I will send you the link to the podcast profile now that I have because I'm on Anchor. And of course, it puts it on Spotify and so forth. So thank you, Joshua. Thank you. You're welcome. Absolutely.
yeah, which please do. And once you get it going, if you ever want a guest, let me know. I'd be glad to come on and talk with you more. I'd be honored to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the goal is the only reason I haven't been pushing with it right now because I think one of my grandbabies broke my laptop and because of this making it a little more difficult for me to run my condenser my because I got a V8 live sound card and then my condenser mic and all of that, but it's kind of difficult with the screen messed up on my laptop to
Of course.
control the recording digital part of it. So I'm looking to get a new laptop so I can recreate and start getting getting jumping back on and getting my podcast moving.
Of course.
So I will
So,
definitely send you the link to that because it will be pretty much the same thing. If not, I'll have everybody will know, you know, whatnot. But right now, that's the same one. And if I can reformat the whole joint and still keep that particular setting, then I will. And I'm trying to work with Anchor and hopefully that I can keep it. But I'm working on I'm gonna put a website up for it too. So
sounds good. Where can the people find you now if they want to contact you to be on their podcast?
okay, they can contact me on Facebook under Allen Streets Rawles, just like they see it up here on the screen and whatnot. Um, Also can find me on Instagram. Can find me on the Streets is Talking podcast. That would be just like you read in Streets with the Z, IZ Talking podcast. You can also find me as the Deaf Chef on Instagram as well. And Facebook groups you can find as the Streets is Talking podcast listeners booth and Streets is Listeners podcast group. So those are all the places, but they can definitely hit me more so on Facebook, and they can also email me if they like at mtrend.nbh@gmail.com.
All right. Well, that sounds good. And any podcasters who want to get him on, talk about his experience, please hit him up. And as you all know, you can find me on Facebook as the Paranormal the New Normal Facebook podcast group on Facebook, and everything I do is there. All 5 podcasts I'm on, 2 paranormal, and 3 other ones. So feel free to catch me there, and you can catch me on Twitter and the Gram as @JuggaloBastard. So find me there, and we will see you guys next time. And I've been grateful to have Alan on, tell his experience, and just to talk to him in general about paranormal stuff. And I thank you, Alan.
Appreciate you having me on, Jeremy.
It's been a good episode, and we will catch you guys next time.